Hey, what's up? It's Nick Pagliochini, and I am in one of my favorite spots, once again here in Southern California, the South Coast Botanic Garden in the South Bay. If you're not familiar, well, we're going to tell you a little bit more about it. And the reason that I am here is truly because of meeting this incredible woman. MaryLynn Mack is I'm just going to call her Mother Nature when it comes to South Coast Botanic. And she can talk about her title and everything else, but she is someone that I met in 2023 with Amy King from Wake Up Call and KFI. And we were doing a segment out and about with Amy King as usual. And MaryLynn was so incredibly welcoming and so just inspiring to show off something she's so proud of and in a team that she's so incredibly proud of. And so that's pretty much the inspiration behind In Conversation, because when we do things for KFI or Coast or any of the stations, we have a very finite amount of time. So we're not able to give full breadth to exactly what the story is or who the people are, because for me, it's really important to meet the people who are part of the fabric of Southern California. And MaryLynn is definitely one of those. So I was wax poetic about you.
Oh,
it is
gosh,
so good to
I'm
see you.
blushing. It's so good to see you again, too.
Thank you for bringing us back to the garden. So a little different than what we did last time. I want to get to know you a little bit more. So talk to me about you as a child. Did you have a nickname or anything fun like that?
Gosh, not so much a nickname. I was actually really shy.
Okay.
When I was little, and people find that really hard to believe now.
Now, sure.
But people that have known me my whole life actually call me Mary. So whenever I hear somebody call Mary, I know that they are going way back.
Really?
But yeah, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
In a traditional Sicilian household.
This is wild. So get the backstory here.
I
No,
know,
this is great. No, I think this is so funny because here you are in Southern California. We'll get to your trip out here. But let's talk about the beginning. And that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, I had an interesting childhood, and it was in some ways very isolating.
Okay.
Because, I'm not real young. And way back then, I was literally the only biracial kid walking around.
Okay.
My dad is Black. My mom is Sicilian. They actually got together, 2 years before Loving versus Loving. So it was literally illegal for them to be in love.
Right.
And so they have their own story that's quite inspiring. And as just luck would have it, I suppose, my grandmother and grandfather on the Sicilian side really supported my mom through what was a pretty, tumultuous time. I remember the riots in the 60s. I was tiny little, and one of my first memories is being in the back car of this really large Lincoln Continental, big cars, right? You could have 7 kids in the back seat. And I'm looking out the back window, and I remember there being like people throwing bottles and rioting and everything. And it's just a glimmer. But I'm just giving you kind of that moment in time of my childhood and my mom and dad.
But that's intense because that is so much. And I think that speaks to you as a person, but then you were young. So it speaks to your parents.
It does.
And the adversity and the challenges of that, but even more so to your grandparents, because being born and raised Italian, only second generation in the US myself, I know, and coming from a very staunchly Roman Catholic family, me being queer does not, sit well with everybody in the family. And so being that unusual member and kind of the black sheep unintentionally, because you had no choice in the matter.
No choice.
And that's really wild. And to have your grandparents, your Italian, Sicilian grandparents really support your mom and your family and you.
They did.
That's amazing.
And, my grandmother was the matriarch. So what she said went. And so everybody else got in line. So that was, she was protecting me and, kind of wrapped her arms around me and my childhood. And so as a result, I have wonderful memories, but also still having that feeling of being the only.
Right.
And there's a reason I say that, because it kind of ties into choices that I made and how I show up even today. So, grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, went to school in Ohio. Again, only biracial kid in class. Going through my teenage years, it's a real struggle for any of us.
Sure,
right?
of course. No, of course.
But for me, it was kind of like looking for that tribe that I was supposed to belong to.
Right.
Because with the white kids, I was too Black, and with the Black kids,
right.
She talks white, or she looks different or acts different. So as a result, I think it really nurtured my imagination because I spent a lot of time by myself.
which is both really sad to hear, but also incredible where you are now. So while that had to have been challenging as a child,
Yeah.
because we learned so much and we experienced so much, and as a kid, we really live with our emotions on our shirt sleeves, no matter introvert, extrovert, or otherwise. So I think that that's such a big component of it, and for you to be where you are now, but to have that incredible backstory, that says a lot.
I think what it allowed me to kind of nurture is empathy for everybody, because when you're the only in the room, when you find some of your own somebodies,
Sure.
you're protective of them, and you're kind of protective of looking around and seeing others that might not feel a sense of belonging. So that was kind of something that the seed was planted early
Okay.
on. And as a result, I think it just helped form how I showed up. So I took a really different departure when I decided to join the military after school.
That is quite a change, yes.
Big, and I think it was just a little bit of wanderlust, a little bit of I'd been in the same town, wanted to see something different. But little did I know what I was getting myself into.
So which branch did you do?
Navy.
Navy,
So
okay.
here I am, this really young Black female that went into the military at a time when, again, it was going through changes.
Correct.
There was Top Gun, kind of that whole era.
The romanticism, yeah.
There were some, but there were also some rules being changed. Okay, women can now do this. Women can now be part of this. And so I was one of those first classes of women that got to do some things that traditionally were set aside for men. As a result, I found myself in San Diego, nice place to be stationed,
Beautiful
right?
place, America's finest city.
But this young Black woman in charge of men that were sometimes twice my age, old enough to be my dad, and learning how to manage under that. So I think that also forms you, right? Because
that has to.
I had to figure out real quick how to gain people's trust and how to motivate them to do things. And so I always look back at my Navy career and realize, yeah, that's where I honed in on really listening to folks, really understanding what was important to them, and then being able to navigate the outcome that way.
That's just, I can't, no, and I think that's because, especially with the surroundings that we're in right now, and not to make, tit for tat, but like you were in the Wild West, we're kind of in the wild period now. In just that aspect of you were at the cusp of so many changes socially, just in the country and, societally, and to have really weathered them. And I'm sure not easy for a good portion of it. I know.
It wasn't.
And that's hard. And like you said, you were a loner, but you found a way in that to come out on top. And it sounds like because now, as you said, you create community. And I think that's the thing from the moment that we've crossed paths back in 2023, and we first was talking about Thomas Dambo trolls, and we were talking about all the things that we'll talk about here in a little bit. There's just so much that I can see now, knowing more about you then. Because then I knew, at what I saw. Now that I have a background on it, it means even more. Because you truly have here at the garden quite the family.
We have created community here.
It's a very impressive community.
We've created a community that works here to serve the bigger community.
Right.
And, we're all drawn to this work for various reasons, but where else can you do that? You're all coming together with kind of this common love and passion to give back. And, that's what drew me to gardens and museums from the start. Volunteering was always something, again, my grandmother, you be of service
right,
in some capacity. And so what a beautiful blend to be able to do your job and be of service at the same time.
That's incredible. With that, though, going back to your grandmother and growing up, tell me about some of the fun things you did. Because I know, obviously, you were creative, and I know that you leaned into that creativity. But, I mean, we're going to talk about some really impressive things you've done here at South Coast Botanic that came from somewhere, that didn't just happen overnight. So lean into childhood or teenage years, something fun. Share some anecdotal stuff with us.
Sure. Well, first of all, she was a fashionista.
Okay.
So, she was always put together. And I think just having that beauty aesthetic, and same with her home, well-appointed home, everything just so. her own special touches, led me to believe that there's something magical in that, that you can create your own environment, you can create your own space. And she let me do that too. So definitely that. And she also was really into making sure that I was part of cultural experiences.
Okay.
So we went to museums, we went to the opera, we went to the ballet. Ironically, and I'm going to share this,
Yeah.
the garden wasn't necessarily a space we visited often, which
How
I found,
interesting.
I look back now and I thought, what do I unpack with that, right? We went once a year to the
Okay.
conservatory at Easter to, get your picture taken in front of the
taken.
Easter lilies. But other than that, out of all of those cultural experiences, gardens weren't part of it.
Really?
And so flash forward to now, and when I've been doing some of the work with some of the committees with the American Public Gardens Association, I and other people of color, we talk about that. Did you go to the gardens? Did you go to the gardens? Oftentimes that was not the case. Our experience with gardens were in our own backyard.
See, I was going to say, so what did that look like?
Well, my grandfather grew the best tasting tomatoes
See, I was going to say, this is where, yeah.
to eat. I have not had a good tomato since I left Ohio. Beefsteak tomatoes. You don't even need meat. Tomatoes on bread, that's a sandwich.
No, and I'm not going to lie, having had some really good beefsteak tomatoes, there's a reason, other than the size and the flesh, and there's a reason you can make a meal out of that, for sure.
Yeah, so definitely gardening with my grandpa. My grandmother, she was doing flowers. So African violets, orchids, things like that were her jam, but he grew the vegetables. And so that was my connection to the earth, the plants, what all that, was made for.
That's amazing though. Really, truly, because again, I think that it's from the most humble beginnings. And as you said, like with the backyard garden. And I think that as you were referencing with talking to people about how they were connected to gardens and what it was either the aesthetic side with the Easter lilies that one time a year, or it was the practical side, making delicious things, the tomatoes at home, herbs, something to that effect. So that's really impressive. Now, you're in Cincinnati, you joined the military, you ended up in San Diego. How did you end up a little bit further north here in Southern California? Granted, San Diego, Southern California, America's finest city, one of my favorite places, but how did you end up here in LA County in the South Bay area?
Oh, well, that's a fun story too. I mean, first of all, once I got into gardens, in San Diego, I was at the Natural History Museum. So I was a museum girl. I was really into interpretation, exhibits, education. And so I honed my craft there. When I left San Diego, I moved to Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
I know.
Girl, it's okay, but still, that's a change.
It's a change, but I'm also a builder by nature.
Okay.
And I had built what I thought I could do at the San Diego Natural History Museum, and I was ready for a new opportunity and a new challenge. And also, I'm a little bit of an adventurous, and I thought, let's just move to a new city and see what happens. So I'm a real leap in the net will appear kind of person.
That's impressive. Now, real quick before we go back into Arizona, when did you leave the military and then go into Natural History Museum? How did that come about?
Well, when I got out of the military, I was honorably discharged in San Diego.
Got it.
And
so you're already there.
Stayed, kind of made my home there for a while.
Got it. Where were you in San Diego? What neighborhood or community?
I was in Mission Hills for the most part. Yeah.
Got it. Because I lived in Poway, North County when I was a kid.
Yeah,
so I'm a San Diegan through and through. Have got that. But I know a lot of people, especially with This Week of Nick Pagliochini, a lot of San Diegans are catching the podcast. So for you to be from,
I love
hometown hero, girl.
Yes, yes. So ready for a new adventure and moved to Phoenix, Arizona. And I actually moved there without a job. So that's the leap in the net will appear kind of thing. I figure,
that's a big leap.
We'll see what happens. And I'm skipping some of my other jobs, but
that's
I
okay
want
though.
to kind of stick with museums and gardens.
Totally understand.
Our talk today. So I got there and realized the museum world wasn't quite as structured as Balboa Park.
Okay.
And I thought, well, gosh, now I'm not really sure which direction to look. And found a tiny little ad for a job at the Desert Botanical Garden in Phoenix. And I thought, gardens, wow. How much different can it be? It's like a museum outside. Got there and fell in love. Fell in love.
But I'm guessing very different. Yes?
Oh yeah. I
Like
mean, I
falling in love,
believe
and of course.
I know. But and and the desert, and
Yes.
so I had to fall in love with a whole new plant palette, and I did. I did. You have to fall in love with a desert palette, but when you do, there's no going back. And to this
That's
day, I'm drawn to our desert garden for the same reasons.
so meaning more native plants, succulents,
Just that
cacti.
hardy, I mean, desert plants, you got to be intentional to live. It's
True.
like they not only have to survive, they have to thrive through adverse conditions. And we think about just human beings in general. What
Yes.
better story than that?
That's incredible. Like the parallels you're drawing make so much sense. Things that we don't even think about. So the next time you go to Trader Joe's and pick up a succulent, you have a much better story, thanks to MaryLynn, truly, of what it is and why you're getting that succulent, even if it, isn't a pumpkin for Halloween.
Yeah,
No,
I got there and thought, gosh, there's not going to be colors and blooms, like some of what's behind us. Nothing could be further from the truth. One of the exercises we did for kids that came to visit the garden is the little paint swatches that you get, at Home Depot or whatever.
okay,
We hand those out and say, okay, go find these colors. And inevitably
genius,
you can,
right?
because it's just a palette that you have to look for at different times of the season. So it was a wonderful opportunity. I worked with amazing people. I fell in love with Botanic Gardens and realized this is my career. This is what I'm sticking to. And was able to be a part of a team that really built that place into something fantastic too.
See, and then so from the desert to the ocean again. But no, yeah, I was like, you came back, and I'm glad you did, because we would not have met if not. But it's just, I think, your trust in self, and I think from an early age that was established, it sounds like you have a family who not only supported you, but taught you to be self-sufficient.
Had to.
Taught you how to trust your gut.
Yeah, and pull your strengths from within.
Correct.
And also be a little chameleon-like, because
Okay.
when you're an only, you talked about building your own community. You also have to very quickly adapt to whoever you're around.
Right.
Get a sense of, okay, what's around me. But it's a nice way to just be open to meeting different people, more people. I'm going to build my tribe wherever I go.
Your tribe is incredible, and your tribe has so many facets, I think, because even if they might be smaller elsewhere, you still have your jewel of a tribe. The facets on it are just incredible, because you've got little pieces here and there, and you have left a part of you, and I think your heart and your soul in all these places, and you've taken parts of them with you.
I feel like all of us can do that,
I think so.
You lead from where you are.
But I think you
you
embody that. And I think too many times we don't give ourselves permission. So I'm incredibly impressed and thankful for you sharing that, because you're giving people who are listening to us on the podcast or tuning in and seeing the video, you're really giving them that permission to go, you know what, I can do this.
Absolutely.
And I think that's it. So many times we have to have that push, that nudge. Sometimes it's hard to be a self-starter. Sometimes between depression and everything else that just kind of is around, you are an only, and you embody that. And while there were, I'm guaranteeing, times of loneliness and low, here you are all these years later, and incredibly successful with quite the tapestry of colors, truly, in your backstory. But how did you end up out here again? How did you come back to the Pacific Ocean?
Well, this was wonderful. And, I'm part of American Public Gardens Association, which is an umbrella of which over, 600 botanical gardens and arboreta across the United States, Canada, Mexico belong to. And we're really fortunate in the fact that we're able to gather together every year at conferences and learn and just be together and, share stories. And it's a wonderful experience. And I met Adrian Nakashima, who's the CEO here, at one of those conferences, gosh, many years back.
Okay.
We hit it off because, people are going to find each other, right? And she was new to the garden world. And I was like, well, tell me about this South Coast Botanic Garden place. And, she was just starting to figure out, what she wanted to do with this space, what the community wanted to do with the space. And we kind of lost touch, but would always reconnect at these conferences. As again, opportunity would have it. My kids were grown, graduated high school, graduated college, and I was ready for a new adventure. I'm a builder by nature. Desert Botanical Garden was in beautiful shape, fully curated, and doing amazing things, and had been for years. And I was ready for a new challenge. And boy, did that happen at South
Boy,
Coast
girl.
Botanic Garden.
Yes.
This is an amazing space, 87 acres of opportunity. That's what this place is.
And it shows. And I mean, I have covered not every square inch of it, but more than most in being able to come and profile some of the incredible events that you have had back in 2023 and getting a little bit of a preview of things that are coming here in 2024. A couple of the events we're going to talk about, one is underway, one will be coming very shortly, and then plenty of other things happening. But it's wild. So you set everything up for success in Phoenix, including a family, and they launched,
Yep.
and they went and did their thing, and the kids, you know, college and all. And then you had that adventure change. So you came back to Southern California.
I did.
And what was it like because how big was the desert garden in Phoenix?
Desert was 55 acres.
Okay, so close-ish.
This is 87.
Okay, not close-ish.
Not close-ish. And you know, the desert is what we call, you know, it's very much in an urban area.
Yes.
Papago Mountain, surrounded by Scottsdale, Phoenix, and Tempe.
Okay.
So, beautiful, beautiful, and just amazing exhibits and events. And I mean, they do Las Noches de las Luminarias. I think they're well past their 60th year of doing that.
That's
so
incredible.
Just amazing traditions. Truly Southwest and beautiful. This was a garden in the making. I mean, I think we were trying to figure out what we wanted to be, which is a cool place, right?
It's a really cool place. You don't get to be there for a lot of things and a lot of organizations.
You don't get to be there at the beginning, right?
Correct.
And so to come in and build whole departments together and then let everyone be a part of leaving their own legacy. Because oftentimes, you know, we'll have staff members go, we think this is a cool idea. Go for it. Now, you might have to do every square inch of that idea from conception to, you know,
right, of course.
Implementation, but where else do you get that kind of opportunity?
No, this is truly, I mean, talk about legitimate grassroots.
Yes.
Like both, you know, figurative and creative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this really is a space and it is so unique. And I think we're going to talk about it more in part 2, but you don't even necessarily know this gem is here. And I think that has been both a huge benefit and, you know, a little bit of a hindrance, but I think it's being able to share stories like this and being able to bring people in to experience this incredible space, which really in the South Bay and in Southern California, period, is a hidden gem.
It is. I mean, to have 87 acres that you can come to and have that respite and that quiet, you get in our back 40 acres and you don't feel like you're in LA.
This is true.
I mean, it is just a complete reset. You can remove yourself from whatever you're dealing with out there past those gates, and that makes it wonderful.
And outside of these incredible walls or the berm of the Botanic Garden, what does MaryLynn do these days for fun? What's your work-life balance look like? I know.
Probably not real
I was
good.
gonna say, which is okay though, but I think the thing in the time that we've known each other, and I think, well, you know, I'm sure you definitely have earned, you know, many, many spa vacations over and over again. You really, going back to your tribe and going back to it, you have this work-life balance that really allows for you to pour yourself into this place, but then you also have that community that's been created in and around it. So
Absolutely.
It makes it so much easier than a bunch of coworkers with HR and everything else. They're all here. It is that, you know, a professional entity like that, but you really do have, I mean, this is a great office. I know being an airborne traffic reporter was one of my favorite jobs because I got to report to an airport. I got to go out.
Yes.
I didn't have to be locked in an office. You have the most incredible view. If you're tuning in or seeing this on Instagram or socials or on YouTube, I mean, this place is absolutely incredible. And it doesn't matter what time of year because MaryLynn and her crew have genuinely curated an amazing, I don't know, I mean, when you said it's museums and gardens can't be that far off. You've proven that point here.
You know, we've incorporated arts, we've incorporated exhibitions, but, you know, we always let nature lead. And I mean, you know, who can do it better than Mother Nature? I mean, yes, we curate spaces, but at the end of the day, she does this herself. I mean, you can't go wrong with a garden in California. We're pretty lucky.
We are
In a
indeed.
long season, something is going to be beautiful here year round.
I love it. Well, that's a good place, I think, to put a pin in part 1.
Okay.
Be sure to check out thisweekendwithnick.com, the show notes to learn more about South Coast Botanic Garden here in the South Bay of Los Angeles County. Also, MaryLynn Mack, my absolute favorite. Love her to death. And also be able to check out Nick Pagliochini and This Weekend with Nick on Instagram. And then how do we find you? How do we find South Coast Botanic on socials or anything else?
Well, we are on socials, so all you need to do is probably you can go to our website to find out about events and exhibits at scbgf.org. And then we're on Instagram, we are on Facebook, so check us out because we're always showing something beautiful.
And it's truly incredible. So stick around. We've got to learn a little bit about MaryLynn, and we will learn so much about South Coast Botanic in part 2. MaryLynn and I, we look forward to seeing you out and about this weekend.